How concerned should a Warrior fan be with all this? Because is this the real deal? Is this the real inside implosion that tears dynasties asunder?
Yeah, they're done. These are the Suns now.
Nice.
Nice. It depends on how you want to define dynasty, because this is really not about this season. It's about the off season. Durant's not going anywhere until June. Green's not going anywhere until June. I think they are both smart enough to know that nobody benefits from them turning this into a poop show. It's, go out, win another ring, and then you can do whatever you want. So, basically, the narrative has been all along, let's fast forward through this tedious basketball and get to the real fun of finding out whether Durant wants to be a Knick or a Laker. It's almost like basketball has become sort of a byproduct of the real show, which is finding out where players are going to go get their next $40 million contract.
And in the meantime, basketball games get in the way, is what you're saying.
Well, it does now, because everybody, and I mean everybody, has already ceded the championship to Golden State, barring a catastrophic injury or set of injuries. So, all this has been about all year long has been, where's Durant going next year? What's Durant thinking about next year? It's like they can't wait to be done with the 2018-19 season. And it's 20 games in, not even. We already know what's going to happen next. Now we want to know what happens after next. It's a triumph of our cultural lack of patience.
I love it, right?
More than anything else. Just don't tell us what's about to happen. Give us 9 alternate universes for next season, and then the season after that. I find it bizarre. I find it hilarious.
Well, I'm part of it, Ray. I awarded
We're all part of it.
I awarded the Larry Francis.
I
awarded the Larry Francis O'Brien Trophy to them on what date was it again, Chris Brockman?
October 30th.
Yeah, so it's coming up on almost a month that I did that. My question.
You were late.
I was. But at some point, though, I guess everybody's going to have to realize that in order for the next contracts, before it happens, it would be better to have on your legacy sheet another championship. So where do you think Steve Kerr's role in all this is? Because he's the coach. He's the one that realizes that games need to be won before any free agency hits. What do you think here, Ray?
Well, I think everybody there realizes that. And that, when Draymond Green said this was a bump in the road, to a certain extent it was. But the Warriors are, they're every bit as guilty of looking past this season as anybody, because next year they go into a new building. And it's a new building across the bay. They've got to, basically take their fan base and then add to it, because a lot of people are going to drop off because they're not going to go across the bay and deal with the nightmares of traffic and higher prices and all that. They have to rebuild a fan base. They have to, keep this machine going. And if they go into a new building and all of a sudden the Warriors are not as advertised like they were the previous 4 or 5 years, then all of a sudden now, the bloom's off the rose. And I think, everybody, including the organization, has been caught looking down the road. We've got to keep this going because of next year. We've got to keep this going because we're trying to build our legacy. Everybody, the entire National Basketball Association, all 30 of its constituent teams, and every fan is looking ahead to 2020. When you look back at this in 5 years, you will realize how insane this all is and that we are all part of it. And Steve Kerr is caught in the middle of it because he is in many ways an old school guy. He's a modern coach. He lets players, be players. But he was a guy who would grit his teeth and take the charge and, get into the fight with Michael Jordan, because that's what you do. And now he's dealing with a dynamic, and Bob Myers is dealing with a dynamic, and Joe Lacob's dealing with a dynamic in which the immediacy of coaching and playing is almost secondary to our fascination with down the road. And in no other sport is that happening right now. It's not happening in the NFL. I mean, the NFL is classic right now. I mean, the Los Angeles Rams are built for the right now. The Warriors' backstory is what comes after this, because we've already decided that this isn't entertaining enough. We want next. And that's where they're all at. That's where we're all at.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.